Welcome back to WCB Jazz Vinyl. So it occurred to me, I've been listening to a lot of new music lately. So albums that have come out, call it over the last few months. I've just had a number of them hit my doorstep, and I wanted to take the opportunity to share. I think it's 6 of them with you. They're sort of my favorites. It occurs to me sometimes I wait until the end of the year and I do like a top 10 list, but by that point, not necessarily all the albums will be available. So I wanted to kind of get on top of that, even though I think one of these is already one of these might already be sold out. But in any event, I wanted to cover them with you, share what I'm listening to. So yeah, as always, of course, please do hit like. You can subscribe to my channel if you'd like. You can follow me on Instagram at what_can_brown, and otherwise, let's just get into it. All right, so the first one I wanted to cover is by Sasha Berliner. So Sasha Berliner is a vibraphonist who I've talked about on my channel in the past, and the reason was because she put out an album that was released by JMI Recordings, and the year that was released, I want to say it was 2 years ago, it happened to be my favorite new jazz release of the entire year, and so since then I've been following Sasha Berliner's work, and this year she put out an album called Phantom. So this is what it looks like. I believe it was put out by Outside In Music, and it's kind of an interesting album. I think first, just from the outset, you can sort of tell this doesn't look like, call it a traditional jazz album. They're trying to communicate something perhaps a little bit different. And it turns out when you listen to the music, what you'll sort of discover is that this isn't exclusively jazz. It's definitely in the jazz space. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like too much of a departure. This is put out in kind of a gatefold, so the liner notes are in the middle, and there isn't really much on the back. But just a really cool label on this disc as well. Sounds great, and yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, I would just say, I'm trying to think if you should go and like preview a particular track versus another, but. I mean, I think you should just head to Bandcamp. And by the way, I'm going to include preview links to the extent that they're available. Probably most of these will be Bandcamp in the description so that you can go and just navigate over to Bandcamp and, preview some of these for free. So the next one up is an album called Orbits, and this is by The Circling Sun. So the last time I spoke about Circling Sun was actually in my year-end roundup last year because their album made my top list, and it was one of my favorites. So they're back with a follow-up to that album. So this is a New Zealand band, and I'd never heard of them until they put that release out last year. And again, I had to pick this one up, especially because as soon as I previewed it, I realized it was very much in the same vein. Like, it sounds similar to the past album. It's definitely not a departure. It's almost more of what was so great about the first one. And I guess what do I mean by that? I find this type of music, their music, to be very uplifting, very sort of a lot of positivity. You could say that there's a spiritual element to it. They do incorporate some vocals in the form of like choir singing, but it's kind of this like, I don't know, it has elements that remind me of electronic music as well, in terms of having these like sort of repeating lines that sort of build and swell with energy. I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. I mean, but there certainly is a spiritual jazz component to this, and otherwise, yeah, I don't know. What's funny is that this album I actually have on my phone, I guess, and whenever I connect to like Apple CarPlay in my car, it comes on, and I find myself listening to this almost more than anything else lately, just because it's constantly coming up in the car, and I'm certainly not tired of it. Absolutely love it. This disc that I got, and I don't know if I had to pay more for this or not. I can't remember. There probably is a black vinyl pressing, but I ended up getting this kind of green vinyl pressing. So yeah, this is another one. Again, link to Bandcamp in the description. So number 3, at this point, I think people could probably consider me an Andy Haye evangelist, because I feel like I keep talking about every single one of his albums when they come out, and I talk about how great they are, and his albums are frequently in my top 10 lists. And here we have one sort of mid-year. It came out a couple months ago. It's called Equinox. So again, Equinox by Andy Haye. This is self-released, so he doesn't release through labels. He releases it all himself. He puts up the money. He does all the artwork himself, and in fact, each one is unique. So this is hand painted, so each one is going to look slightly different. But again, titled Equinox, the material was recorded last year, but at the very end of last year, like December, and he finally put it out on vinyl, I guess around mid-year this year. So very similar to Andy Haye's work in the past. Not that it sounds like his other albums, but in terms of some of like the overall themes, I mentioned like positivity when I was talking about Circling Sun. There's a lot of that here. There is a lot of spiritual jazz elements to his work as well, and I think folks that maybe like music, from say the '70s that delved into that are probably going to resonate with some of the music that he's playing today. This album isn't solely that, and there are some tracks with vocals. But what I would say is that there probably is something for everybody on this, and I think everybody is going to sort of feel one way or another about his music, because I find it to be like sort of emotional in places, and again, there's just like a lot of feeling. So I think it's pretty impressive that he continues to hand paint every single one of his releases. It's worth following him on Bandcamp, because he said something on Instagram related to maybe that he's going to stop putting out new releases for a little while, and I think that first of all that's unfortunate, but I'm hopeful that he's going to continue to play music. I just think that he does such a great job releasing music and making each thing unique, but it also seems like a lot of work. I mean, painting every cover. He included this card. He does like hand stitching on the liner notes. So it's I certainly have an appreciation for everything that goes into this. But I'm just one of the reasons why I love talking about it is and love sort of being that Andy Haye evangelist, is because I want him to make more music. So like he still has copies of this on his Bandcamp that are available, and he is also kind of, I think he's repressing some of his prior stuff, maybe bundling it into like box sets and stuff like that. So I think it feels like maybe he's kind of clearing some old inventory as well. So check out Bandcamp, see if you like this release, see if you like maybe some of his others that could also be for sale. And again, I say that very much selfishly, because I just want him to keep playing. All right, the fourth one I wanted to highlight is by the NADT Orchestra. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to actually say NADT as a word or not, but the album is called Dualism, and it was put out by Locomotive Records. I actually didn't know anything about this group whatsoever until this release was put out in May, so just a couple of months ago, and I just found myself really gravitating towards it. So I actually may have discovered this on Bandcamp. It might have been like a featured something or other, because sometimes I'll go to Bandcamp and I'll just look at like what's on the main page that's brand new that are jazz releases, and I'll just kind of preview some random stuff. That may be how I came across this album, but I'm a big fan of this. So this is there's a lot of things going on here. I would say that there's a high production value. There's a lot of instrumentation. There is indeed sort of the full orchestra sound at some points, but still in a very modern way. Like, you're not going to hear like the sort of stodgy strings and woodwinds as much as you will hear possibly synthesizers and electronic instruments. And so therefore it does have an electronic feel, even though they are kind of positioning themselves again as an orchestra, just like a modern orchestra, if that makes sense. But it isn't all that either. It's not all this kind of big, I don't know, sort of swelling, orchestral kind of thing. There are plenty of tracks that are more minimalist, and I find there to be a lot of character with the music here in a way. Like, I don't necessarily want to call it soundtrack music, but I would say that some of the tracks have a soundtrack quality to them, whether because they're very epic or because it feels like they're expressing like a mood or like a theme in a very clear kind of way, like you might see done in a movie. So again, yeah, go preview this. Also on Bandcamp, I'm pretty sure you can preview each of the tracks. All right, number 5 is by the Julian Shore Trio, and this album is called Sub Rosa. So this is a piano trio album. So piano, bass, and drums. It is, I think I said this in my review on Instagram, I think, when I posted about this a little bit ago. It's really difficult to have a trio, like a traditional trio record, and have it stand out these days. There are so many piano trios, and don't get me wrong, there's lots of like great ones working today, and it is that classic combo. And I also know that there's a lot of folks that just love the format, like anything trio. But again, it's hard to stand out. It's hard to listen to a brand new piano trio record and for me to say they're doing something different. This sounds interesting, and I'm all in. And yet, when I listened to this album, I kind of felt that like it does feel like there's something new here, despite the fact that he's not playing. Julian Shore is not playing the piano in a call it a different way. It's just that he's, I don't know, bringing himself to the music, and I just think that this trio really gels. I also think that this particular recording is just really really good. Like I don't there's nothing on the back of this that makes me think they were going for what I'll call a quote unquote like hi-fi type of sound. They don't really get into that. I mean, it says it was recorded at Power Station in New England. It said it was mixed by Chris Leon at the Vesper Room in Nashville. But it's not like they're positioning this in a very specific way that's like this is an audiophile presentation like some other artists do or like some other labels do. This one just happens to be, I suppose, have had all the right people involved and the right sound design and everything because it has that sound. It has that kind of sound. All right, so number 6, the last one that I wanted to briefly talk about is one that just came out, that just arrived on my doorstep, like a week ago, something like that. So this is the Organic Pulse Ensemble, and the album is titled Oppression is 9/10 of the Law. This is being put out, or this was put out by RR Gems. That's the label. And this is not the first album that this group or really this person has put out, but it is the first one that I've been able to get a copy of because this guy's work tends to sell out, and actually this is no exception. So I said up front that one of these isn't available, at least at last check. I believe this one is not available, but it's one of those things that if you follow, obviously you can do your eBay searches, but or look on Discogs and see if anybody's flipping one. But the other is maybe to follow Dusty Groove and see if they happen to get copies in. I'm not sure. I don't know if they ordered them, but in any event, very very interesting stuff. So this I believe the musician classifies this music as liberation music, and I kind of mentioned it's a musician as opposed to a band. And it turns out that all the music on this was composed, performed, recorded, and mixed by a guy named Gustav, and then I don't know how to pronounce his name, possibly Horneij. I'm not sure. Horneij. And yeah, I mean it's quite an impressive feat to basically do it all yourself. But that is exactly what this musician does with the Organic Pulse Ensemble. Really, really interesting stuff, though. I have barely even started processing it. I think I've listened to this album twice now, and I'm really enjoying it. There's definitely a lot here for me to absorb, and I figured I wanted to kind of share that with you all as well. And you can certainly go and preview this stuff on Bandcamp as well. So again, link in the description. All right, just a quick video. Hope it was helpful for anyone who is looking for some new music to check out. Those are the 6 that I've got. I've listened to some other stuff, and there's probably plenty of stuff that I haven't covered on this channel yet. But again, I'll always have my end of year wrap up, and we'll see which ones of these end up making my top 10. So with that, I guess I'll see you all next time.